If you're even remotely familiar with my channel, you'll know that I love Pokemon. I mean, if my reviews of both Pokemon Snap and the Detective Pikachu movie didn't give that away. Or the fact that I 100%ed Pokemon Snap on Twitch. Or my other Pokemon streams like Sword and Shield. Or my plushies. Hey, I don't have a problem, you do. But despite that, and despite Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl also being a thing, even I will admit that while I love the games, the franchise has been in a rut for some time now. A lot of the times it really does feel like the same game over and over again, just with different areas in Pokemon. As well as other gimmicks that are barely used after 1 or 2 Pokemon games. Looking at you, Mega Evolutions. Now that's not necessarily always a bad thing, and again, I still love the changes they do make, again, Mega Evolutions. As well as stuff like more regional variants like in Sun and Moon, and all the variants, customizing, and other things that Sword and Shield brought to the table. But it is obvious that Pokemon needs to try some new things. Now, new Pokemon Snap, that was a game I love and hated and loved again over the course of 100%ing it on stream. And as far as just being a sequel to a property and a continuation, it is a step in the right direction on that front anyway, as it brought new things to the table, it expanded upon what made the original great, and it added new features. But at the end of the day, that was a spin-off and not one that incorporated the actual RPG elements. We still needed one game, like a traditional Pokemon game, that would be innovative but fun. And thankfully, it seemed like we were getting that. And as a happy coincidence, it was really the only Pokemon game I was looking forward to. Yes, even more than Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It was Legends Arceus. It looked like everything I wanted as far as innovation for the series. A fully open world to explore, an interesting new location in the form of an ancient world set years before the other games, so that it could show how the ancient history of the world and region was formed, as well as possibly an origin story for everything else that happened. Open-ended mechanics like catching Pokemon in the wild instead of with random encounters, which kinda made the game one part RPG, one part action game. New Pokemon variants that look awesome.
Shut up and take my money!
It was honestly just firing on all cylinders in my head. The serotonin was going nuts. I saw the trailers and knew I had to get this game. So of course I played it, and well, what did I think of it? Well, let's talk about it. So I guess no better place to start with than with the story, and honestly, the story is one of the first things that drew me in. It could have been so easy to just rope in a Dawn lookalike and say it was her ancestor. But nope, it actually goes in a different route, and it turns out the girl was plucked from what we can only assume is modern time, as she is suddenly talked to by Pokegod himself, and sucked into the ancient world of Pokemon like he's Aku, but not before being given an ARC phone. Huh, so if I meet God he'll give me a smartphone?
Rip-off artist! Ow! My shin!
But yeah, we are headed into the world of the Hisui region, which is supposed to be the Sinnoh region. And we are under the care of the Galactic Clan, where we learn to research Pokemon instead of fighting and capturing them. By fighting and capturing them, hey, it could be thousands of years in the past, but Pokemon's still gonna Pokemon. Though the methods of capturing them are much more different than before. That was one of the first things I would imagine a lot of people notice about this game was the gameplay. It takes a big departure from standard gameplay of the other RPG Pokemon games. For one, the roles are reversed. Instead of Pokemon hiding in the tall grass, now you hide in the tall grass. You hide in the grass so you can get close and give them a good old ball hit to capture them. And honestly, I love this little mix-up to the gameplay. It feels like a natural re-progression of the gameplay while at the same time feeling like an innovation as well. It would make sense that you would treat Pokemon like you're actually hunting. Instead of just going out in the wild waiting for an encounter and fighting them, you can sneak up and capture them like real animals. It's a great innovation while at the same time feeling natural for the decade. It's not even the only one, as there's now a use for berries outside of feeding them during battles and stuff. You can now use berries to lure Pokemon closer to you. You can also hit them when their backs are turned to get an extra chance to get it the first try. They also streamlined capturing a lot, as now there's only one giant bounce before you know if you caught it or not. As much tension as the 3 bounce thing did bring, it also got really annoying and slowed down the gameplay. But this, it's quick and you know exactly what's happening. Heck, it even makes it easy to catch a horde of them. And that's not even counting the new ball types you're gonna get as well in your journey. Gone are the days of the heart balls, the quick balls, and all the different types of balls. Now we just have the standard, great, and ultra balls, as well as heavy balls and feather balls. I'm saying balls a lot. The heavy balls are great for capturing big Pokemon when their backs are turned, and the other one goes wee when you throw it. I like that they simplified all the Pokeballs, but all the changes to the gameplay, I love the additions. It switches things up in a great way, and since it's not a mainline game, I'm okay with them downplaying the more RPG elements in some aspects. It honestly feels more like an action game with some of these changes, and hey, I'm okay with that. Not to mention the action of throwing the ball just right when they don't see it coming, the elation of getting a backstab on them, and then the joy when you catch it, it's satisfying. It's honestly more satisfying than a normal Pokemon catch. Granted, some of them are still a pain in the ass to catch even when everything is on your side. I'm looking at you rose bitch. But that's just Pokemon honestly. I can't exactly blame this game for mechanics that have been around since the beginning. But getting back on track to the story, along the way of getting yourself trusted by the clan, we also meet the rival, who is actually a pretty chill dude, if a little bit of a goober. For the record, I played the girl in this version, so I'm curious if the girl is just as goofy in comparison. When you play as the boy, that is. But we also meet Team Pearl and Team Diamond's leaders. Both are pretty great, honestly, but yes, I stand with the Pearl Clan's leader. She's cute, okay? She's a walking heater like me, and that tail gives her a huge badonkadonk. Oh, don't look at me like that, you're thinking the same thing. We also meet all kinds of other members, as well as see many other people, all the while exploring big, open-ended areas. Granted, it isn't Breath of the Wild levels big, but it's still pretty impressive. Instead of having one giant open area, it's more like 5 smaller but more expansive open areas. I much prefer this method as it makes each biome much more manageable for the Pokemon hunting. And the biomes themselves are still pretty, if a bit basic. Swamp, fields, beach, you played a Pokemon game, you've seen these before. Actually, the most common complaint I've heard towards these games is that visually they aren't great. And I have to disagree to an extent. Sure, there are some aspects that don't look nearly as good. Some of the textures aren't exactly amazingly detailed or anything. Hell, in some cases they use very obvious tricks to make them look better, and it doesn't always work. Like this little moment on my stream where we found a glitched rock texture. It's just chilling up there, doing nothing but being weird. Or this issue where some mon from very far away drop frames hard. But honestly, with an open world like this, I was expecting a lot more stuff like that. And what I got was some amazing landscapes and gorgeous sunsets. Those are honestly the aspects I focused on. And I loved how beautiful the game looked in these areas. Heck, even the swamp looks good. And the snow one feels so cold. I honestly do like the biomes even if they're simple. Are the graphics amazing? I suppose technically not. But frankly, I'm not so spoiled that I need great graphics. As long as it doesn't look like a potato, I could frankly care less if some of the textures are choppy or if some of the frames drop on the mon. At least when you're up close, the frame rates stay very smooth. And if we're gonna sacrifice graphics, they can at least center it on the gameplay and stuff. And the gameplay and story more than make up for it. Speaking of the story though, we also end up meeting the ancestors of the characters from the modern games. And it's not even subtle with half of them. I mean, just look at these characters, it could not be more obvious. But even if it's obvious, I like that it's obvious, and I like that it ties into the modern day world. It's almost like it's linking them together, and it even acts as a way for both nice callbacks for older fans, and nice Easter eggs for those that are familiar with them. While at the same time not being so intrusive that those aren't familiar are going to be annoyed by it. Even if you don't know who this character is, it's still a nice character to talk to, so the Easter eggs in that regard come off as some of the best in my opinion. They're just great characters in their own way, be the quirky, the cool, or the wholesome. With this fucking male Karen being the only exception. Seriously, I can't stand this character. And it sucks because the Guardian before him is actually one of my favorites. Her relationship with this goober is just too wholesome. Though the old lady is also a very close second. She's just too much. Yes, he has to warm up to you, but at least he has a very understandable reason to. With this world being the way it is, as both Pokemon lovers and those who still fear them are at odds with each other, it's understandable why she would be hesitant of you. And when she does help, she's a delight. Oh yeah, I should probably mention, there are no gym leaders in this game either. The closest equivalent to the gym leaders are the Guardians. And even that's a bit of a stretch. You do fight some of them, but for the most part you're helping them out to see the Guardians, while also giving you some mounts. Yeah, that's another new feature, the mounts. This world is big, so you need some help getting around in the form of a speedy Durr traveling around faster than the speed of sound, a chunky bear to sniff out items underground, a ghost fish to swim since your ass can't, this thing who treats you like a Nezuko and puts you in the box. I like the box. And finally, you can through the environment on this giant burb. All this makes traveling easier than ever before. They add a new level to the game and it makes it way easier to go around the world. Heck, even the mountains have no issue to you. You're unstoppable. This is easily the most mobile a Pokemon protagonist has ever been in any game. I suppose if I did have one complaint, using the mind given to you does feel a little, I don't know, insincere if that's the right word? Here, let me try to explain. In previous games, when you had to swim up a waterfall, break a rock, move a rock, cut a tree, or anything like that, yeah, TMing was a nightmare, but at least it felt like your Mon were doing it. It made it feel more like a team effort. But these, they're just Mon who help you and they don't even count towards your team. I suppose it's just a nitpick at the end of the day though. And besides, I suppose they are still better than TMing at the very least. But as for the Guardians themselves, well, forget the standard ass gym leader fights, as these are a whole nother level. They're much more like all out slobber knockers, as you use your bombs to calm their souls in the open arena areas. These are both some of the hardest yet most rewarding fights in the game, as they force you to mix in platforming and dodging, battling with Pokemon, and your ball throwing skills to the test. It blends all these mechanics perfectly and amazingly well, making the moments you do win so satisfying. I like that they change up the story beats just enough. While a lot of the story beats are kept from previous games and kept very similarly, you know, the teams, the rivals, all that good stuff, it's presented in a different, interesting way, as your whole mission is to save the Pokemon going crazy from lightning strikes, all while preventing the clans from fighting amongst themselves. You may be saving the world, but instead of fighting any one bad guy, you're fighting more acts of nature more than anything. Well, kind of. More on that in a bit. But as the story goes on, you may notice we get a fair bit of new Pokemon variants. They're not just for looks though, as much like the Alolan evolutions, they have special typing. Voltorb, for example, is a grass-electric type, though my personal favorite is the Hisuian Growlithe. Not only is it a rock-fire type, which is already a cool typing, but it looks cute as hell normally and badass as fuck when you evolve it into Arcanine. I love this thing, but I still think all the different variants are cool. Like Gudra, for example, I was initially 50-50 on, but I like the giant shell it's being given. Yeah, I'll miss the tail, but the shell makes sense. Plus, I'm just happy to have more variants, as that was one of my favorite things of Sun and Moon. Not only that, but Pokemon who have long since never gotten to evolve have evolutions. All these years later, and Pokemon from generations earlier are finally getting evolutions. That's just crazy to me. It does make me question why the hell we've never seen these evolutions before, but me questioning Pokemon logic and continuity would be like me asking why the Wii Cat has so much. The Caesar line has a new variant in the form of Cleaver, who looks fucking badass. I was always a Caesar fan myself since the anime, but man does he have some competition now. Hisuian Quillfish now has Overquill, this goofy as hell pufferfish landmine with a Q on its tail. What even is this thing? It's just so goofy, I kinda love it. Sneasel now has Sneasler, Stantler now having this Chad Ganondorf Weredeer, Basculin being this giant ghost fish thing called Basculegion, and even Ursaring gets an evolution, this buff bear called Ursaluna, though he is a bit of a pain in the ass to get. You do need a Moonstone, which makes sense, but you can only evolve him during a full moon. It's funny how even all these years later, Pokemon can still have arbitrary evolution conditions. In fact, all the new ones have weird conditions, with the exception of Cleaver. You just need an item to do that. Oh yeah, evolution bites items are backed as well, but there's even some new items as well, like this little cable. It's called a link cable. You wanna know what it does? It makes trading Pokemon evolve without the need to trade. Thank Christ! I hate trading evolutions. And this fixes it for those of us who don't have friends. Now I can have my chonky Gengar boy, or even Alakazam, one of my favorite psychic types, and Scizor. Granted, Scizor is more the metallic plate, but you don't need to trade it anymore, so I don't care. In fact, all the evolution items have many ways to get them now, not just randomly spawning in the field. You can also get them from traders or buying them from chance traders. They're also dropped in these temporal distortions. They're basically these giant domes that not only drop rare items, but also very strong Pokemon, spawning in all kinds of Pokemon, even some you can't really get out in the wild. With all that into consideration, it's a pretty hefty roster overall, clocking in at a whopping 240, not counting Shaman and Darkrai since those are previous game expansions. But even without those, it's still a lot of Pokemon. But I mean, it's not like we have to catch them all, right? I mean, sure, it's a tagline, but that would be maddeningly hard, now wouldn't it? Anyway, with all these Pokemon being out and about, there is another thing of note. This game may be one of the easiest games to shiny hunt I've ever played. Like, not even joking, I have never had good luck when it comes to shiny hunting. I have always had the worst luck for seemingly no reason at all. But now, I have a good handful of shinies, not counting the given ones. Hell, I thought it was a good sign when the very first shiny I ever caught was an Eevee, which is one of my favorite shinies. I may still even be playing this right now to catch shiny Ralts or Gardevoir. Hey jackass! Stop hunting for waifus and edit the video! But shinies aren't the only thing here that adds a wrinkle. There's also outbreaks, where several of the same Pokemon spawn together and you actually have a very high chance of catching shinies here, or just capturing a crap ton of Pokemon. Not to mention, there's also alphas now. Just think of the most pissed off giant of a Pokemon, that's an alpha. They are giant versions of regular Pokemon that are stronger and bigger than their normal forms. And sweet Jesus can they be a bitch to catch sometimes. They are much harder to capture and contain than any other Pokemon in the game. In some cases even harder than the legendaries when it comes to the late game. But when you do, they are easily one of the strongest Pokemon you will ever have in the game. And yes, while there isn't a lot of storage space for your Pokemon, you're actually encouraged to release any Pokemon you don't want or need, as you're rewarded with Grit Rocks that upgrades your Pokemon stats. I actually like that you're encouraged to let your Pokemon free, you're actually given something for it now. But catching isn't reliant on money anymore either. There's even a crafting system now where you can craft Pokeballs. Yes, this is another new mechanic. But it's not just Pokeballs, you can also craft potions and other miscellaneous items. It's not a massive crafting system, I mean this isn't Minecraft for God's sake, but it's still a cool feature. And there's also side quests keeping a lot of the RPG elements. Small things, like helping this Chimchime find a home, or seeing this Clefairy dance. Look at him go. They're nice little distractions from the story and I love them. But what I particularly love is that you do see the changes in the world. When you do stuff like the quest, seeing the farms expand and the village grow larger. And you even seen villagers who once feared Pokemon, now using them as companions on a regular. Like guarding the camp or just the farm resources. It makes it feel like you are really adding to the world and making it expand. Slowly but surely making the area more like the world you would expect. But sadly, all good things must end. After helping all the Guardians, you finally think all is well until the sky rips itself open. Oh goody, a sky hole. I see one alien come out of there and I'm leaving. Well, thankfully no, we don't get anything like that. It's just the universe tearing itself in two. You know, nothing too big. Which does lead to Komodo banishing you. I have mixed feelings about this, honestly. On one hand, I do like they basically heavily imply that Komodo doesn't want to banish you. A small part of him does trust you still. It's just that, well, it was your job to fix this and you made it worse. So the village doesn't exactly trust you now, so he does it for the sake of his people. But on the other hand, I still really dislike this. It's basically a liar reveal in everything but lying. There's the moping, there's the doping, and then it's almost completely forgotten about as you're literally brought back 5 minutes later. Which to its credit, yeah, it's short and doesn't linger, but it's still annoying. And at the very least, the professor and your rival still support you. I like that. And I just don't see why it was needed. You're brought back to the village not even a few seconds later, so what was the point? To have an all is lost moment? Guys, the sky is literally ripping itself like a susurrus. You don't need to rustle anyone's jimmies, the jimmies are already rustled. Anyway, we eventually do find the river Pokemon, we fight some alphas, and then we fight Komodo, who is actually pretty challenging but very fair. He honestly would have been the perfect final trainer battle as his team is very challenging but very fair to handle. He's strong but not unbeatable. I like this. But sadly, he's not the last trainer. Again, we're getting there. We also get easily one of the best boss fights in the game in the form of Dialga or Palkia, depending on which clan you side with. This one can be an absolute pain. For the record, I went with Dialga and wow, he was fun but challenging as hell. His attacks are very quick and you have only a very narrow window to escape. The only thing I really called foul on was this attack. I swear it's unavoidable. But I admit it probably isn't and I'm just being bad at the game, so I won't hold it against it. Even with this, I still love the boss battle, and in the end, I beat them and the day is saved thanks to Femwatch Super Kawaii Desu. And that's the game. So from all I am saying, sounds like an amazing game, right? Yeah, the graphics aren't amazing, but the story is still pretty good and the gameplay's great and fun. So this has to be an absolute diamond of a Pokemon game, right? Well, there's one teeny, tiny little problem, because after you beat the game, without warning, Pokemon Legends Arceus becomes one of the most frustrating, arbitrary, most annoying Pokemon games to ever play when you get to the post-game. Now don't let it fool you, this post-game doesn't seem too bad at first. You help Volo get the last of the plates, oh yeah, as I mentioned, this is Volo, and you even hunt some legendaries and mythics. It's fun and doesn't seem too bad. And yeah, at first, the post-game is actually pretty fun. It's not amazing, and there have been far better post-games like the battle with Red, for example. But it's fun all the same, and it's still decent. But then we get to the real boss. Yeah, I said the real boss, because you thought it was random acts of nature that did this, but no, it was he, Volo. Yep, Volo is a twist villain. This whole time, Volo was causing Dialga and Palkia to be restless, trying to manipulate things to piss off the gods. Why? To see Arceus. Yeah, I'm not even kidding, he just wants to see Arceus and is willing to destroy the universe for it. Now to its credit, it's not like this came out of nowhere. We do get hints of it, like him being very knowledgeable of different plates, or how Volo even seems to be right near you at all times. But this still feels like it comes out of nowhere, even with the foreshadowing. And I'll also give it credit for having cool commentary on him being an overzealous person who's devoted to Pokegod. I like that nice little subtle commentary. But any goodwill I have is dashed away by the boss battle against Volo. Volo's very first Pokemon is a Spiritomb. I mean, yeah, with the right Pokemon he's not that hard to beat, but let that sink in and be a warning of what's to come, because his team is easily one of the hardest in the game. The combination of the level and the typing and stuff made it really hard for me to fight him. But if that was all that was wrong with it, I wouldn't be here bitching right now. But it's not the end of it, because the game goes from a stumble to a full-on tumble as you see Poke-Satan in all of his glory, and you have to fight him right after the battle with Volo. Yeah, you're not giving a chance to go out and face him again, meaning there's no healing, there's no chance to swap out your mom for benefit typing, and there's not even a chance for you to breathe and even process what happened. Nothing! You have to jump right into it after an already hard as balls battle. Yeah, he's not even done as we have a second form. I won't lie, my jaw hit the floor when this happened in kind of a good way as I wasn't expecting it. But it was followed by Rage as they attack very first no matter what happens. And it destroyed the last of my team the very first time I tried this. So allow me to recap. The very last full-on Pokemon battle in this game is a 3-stage battle against both the hardest team in the game and a legendary with 2 forms. Forgive me for being brutally honest, but this was bullshit. Did Game Freak take the criticism of the games being too easy and just decide to make the final boss one of the most ball-bustingly hard bosses ever? Don't get me wrong, the trainer battles can be challenging in their own way. Hell, the battle with Red is also very challenging in its own way for a post-game battle. But they were fair and not a marathon. Say what you will about Red's battle, at least it was one battle! This is a marathon. This is not simple. This is not easy. I'm gonna be simple and blunt. You are going to die. You are going to die a lot fighting this. Even I only got lucky the second time. I'm just saying, if my team has to consist of nothing but legendary Pokemon, and I can still just barely make it to Satan's final form, the only way I was able to win was by resorting to the unthinkable. I had to become Item Bitch. For the record, I know this is a personal thing, but I hate using items like revives and potions. I hate using them in battle because it never feels fair. Whenever a gym leader uses a potion, I'm not thinking, oh yay, the battle gets to go on. I'm thinking, oh my god, just go down already. I hate it when Pokemon leaders do this because it's not a fair fight anymore. So you can imagine that I hated having to do it myself, but it was the only way I could get as far as I did. I had to use King of the Reggies over here to tank hits while I revived the rest of my team. And even with all those revives, I just barely managed to win in the end. I was on my last leg and my last mon and I was completely out of revives. But I did it. I kicked Satan's ass hard and I won. And I will admit, it was honestly really satisfying. I cheered harder than I had in this whole game, and I suppose in that regard, that's a good thing. But it's still frustrating. I cannot say this is a good boss battle. And I realize there are people who absolutely love this boss battle, don't get me wrong. Heck, if you want a video that's actually much more positive on this boss battle, go check out this one right here, I'm gonna link it down below. it gave me a better perspective and it made me like the battle just a little bit more. But I am still frustrated by this battle as I felt it was too hard. And I'm not even gonna say even for a Pokemon game, I'm gonna say especially for a Pokemon game. This was one of the hardest, worst battles I've ever had to fight. Yes, more than any of the Elite Fours. Yes, more than any of the champion battles. And what's even funny is that Giratina is actually piss easy to catch outside of this battle. When you finally get him in the wild, he's actually very easy to catch. But needless to say, I did it. I beat the true bad guy of the series. But then, you can't even meet Arceus yet. You see, those little messages about having to catch every Pokemon, that wasn't a joke. You have to catch every Pokemon in the game at least once. Let me repeat that. Every single one. All 240 of them. I won't lie folks, I had to stop the game right there. I nearly quit and canceled the stream because that was the straw that broke my back. Now granted, if you play this game like a normal Pokemon game, you're gonna catch a lot of them anyway, and it doesn't seem so bad. You want to catch an evolved mon anyway, so it feels like it would make sense. I mean, since day one you were told to catch them all, so logically this would make seeing God a natural thing that would happen over time. And yeah, on paper, that does sound correct. But see, here's the problem. Not all the mon are so easy to get as just finding them in the wild. Now some of them are, but not all of them. Some of them are exclusively alphas in the wild, meaning you have to find their pre-evolution and evolve that, which takes time, or you have to girt your loins and catch an alpha. Not so bad so far, right? Alphas are a bitch, sir, but they're not impossible. But what if I said some of them have very odd evolve conditions, like Were-Deer needs to use Agile Style Side Shield 30 times without dying. Oh yeah, so probably mentioned, there's also a move system in this game. Agile Style basically gives you a quicker attack and has the chance of making you attack twice, and Strong Style makes your attack stronger, but also makes your opponent faster. I didn't really mention it until now because I didn't really feel the need to, but I like this in theory. I like this mix-up to the battle system as well as a mix-up to the order of moves. Yeah, that's another thing, the moves aren't a traditional RPG system, they can go out of order, sometimes making you attack once or twice, or even 3 times, or even being attacked by several Pokemon at once. But the problem is, I feel like it's not fleshed out enough. For one thing, Strong Style is all but useless unless you're going for a one-hit KO, or if you know your Pokemon's gonna die. Agile Style is a bit better as it gives you more attacks, but it's also weaker in comparison. And the move order system, well again, I like it in theory, but the problem is it's very easy to exploit the move system to make things unfair, like being attacked by multiple Pokemon at once during a battle. Or like I mentioned with Giratina where he gets to attack twice no matter what when he enters his second form. Moments like that are woefully unfair, honestly. I don't hate these systems, but I really do think they need to be expanded upon. But yeah, some of them require you to use Agile Style a certain amount of times, without dying, otherwise it resets. Again, that's a pain in the ass, but if you're strong enough, it's not that big of a deal. But what if I said some also require items? Again, not too bad, as thanks to the link cable, the trading problem is not an issue anymore, so thank God for that. But what if I said some were only quest-based? Like Spiritomb you can only get by collecting all of these wisps throughout the world. And I do mean every single wisp, there's over 100 of these and they're not easy to find. My best recommendation, nighttime. Do it during the nighttime, trust me. They're much easier to find during the nighttime. Or what if you need to get the Seamon? You can only get it by getting 3 very specific Pokemon in your party going through this area, and even then, they are some of the hardest to catch because they're in a small enclosure, meaning if you choose to battle them, your Pokemon's gonna get slaughtered. And they're very hard to catch normally and easily too. So you're probably thinking, okay, that's annoying, that's arbitrary, that's dumb, but that's still doable, isn't it? But take all of that, and then add on the real issue. Those fucking time distortions. Yeah, remember what I said about certain Pokemon appearing in the time distortions? Well, guess what? There's also some Pokemon that are exclusive to time distortions, meaning that in order to catch one of every mon at least once, you have to hunt for these. Now that wouldn't be so bad, but there are 2 giant issues with this. For one thing, they're random. They're supposed to appear every 5, 10, 20, 30, and 40 minutes. Leaving the map or resting resets it, and battling of any kind stops the timer completely. Meaning you are forced to just basically wait for this thing to go off. But here's the real kicker, there are some weather effects that completely reset the timer. meaning that the second any weather happens, you have to look it up, make sure it's not that one, and either continue or rest and reset the timer. Oh, and looking at the map also stops the timer, so yay! Do you know how frustrating it is to wait 40 minutes only for a snowstorm to reset the timer, forcing you to wait maybe even another 40 minutes? It's not fun. It's not fun at all. But that pales into problem number dos. You see, there are 3 random rare drops per distortion, 3 Pokemon that are on a rarity scale that have a chance of spawning. Now one of them is the Porygon line. Now that one's not too bad. Porygon is actually a very common drop. But then there's the last 2 Pokemon that are on the rarer side. These damn Dino Pokemon are the hardest in the game. They're on the rarer side, and they're actually super rare. There's only 3 per distortion, meaning all you have to do is enter a time distortion, and you only get 3 chances for one of them to spawn. No spawning? Too bad, so sad, do it again. Granted, the game threw a bone in me and gave me an Alpha Eevee, but still, this is a dick move, Game Freak! So combine the rarity with the long wait times already for the distortions, this was not a fun time, people. And I'm convinced the game is cursed when I stream it, because the second I did it in my off time, to spare my audience from that torture, I got my Pokemon instantly. So I'm convinced the game just wanted to torture me. But I can't imagine this is easy for anyone else. But please, blame in the comments, was this hard for anyone else? Or am I just being stupid? I mean, it'd be one thing if you were given a fossil of some kind to speed this along, but as far as I can tell, fossils aren't a thing in this game. But in the end, I did it. I got all of them on, and I managed to fight Arceus. And holy balls, if you thought Giratina was hard, Arceus is easily the hardest boss fight in the whole game. He is so quick, his attacks are so agile one after the other, giving you no chance to do it, and he has so many different stages and forms, meaning he hits fast and hard. But I'll admit, I thought this boss battle was way more rewarding than Giratina's. Yeah, honest to God, I thought this one was way better than Volo and Giratina's double tag team. I guess triple tag team technically, but whatever. And at the very least, there are checkpoints in this one. So it's not like it's a marathon like the other ones, thank God. And I will admit, that feeling of finally getting to bitch slap Arceus after all the shit he put me through to get here, it was one of the most satisfying things ever. But it was still a slog to get there. By the end, I was so burnt out, but I did it. Close to 90 hours and I finally beat the game. Now I know there is a post-game update, but yeah, no, I'm good, I'm not touching that. I finished the game and I'm good ending it there. So let's just get to my final thoughts, and honestly, this game has a lot of cracks in it. Not just the graphics, but also some of the mechanics clearly needed to be fleshed out in some regards. Like the strong style and agile style moves, with strong style being all but pointless unless you want to get a one-hit KO off. And while agile style is slightly better while being weaker but also faster, it still needed to be fleshed out more. These mechanics just needed a little more time in the oven, and I honestly feel the same way about the move system either. Again, great idea and great concept, sloppy execution. The move system can lead to some very unfair things, like a horde battle having the Pokemon gang up on yours. Or again, with the fight with Giratina, how he gets to attack twice with his second form, pretty much guaranteeing an insta-kill. From what I understand, some Pokemon are fast enough to overcome it, but that's rare apparently. Oh, and of course the entire postgame as well really didn't need to be as hard or even as arbitrary as it was. Between the final boss, the collecting, it was all just way harder than it needed to be, frankly. And I can't even say skip the postgame because honestly, that's really hard to do. The postgame is still a part of the game, and it was still fun hunting the legendaries and mythicals while it lasted. It was just the final latter half that felt so frustrating, and all the arbitrary Pokemon hunting near the end of it. Honestly, all these problems and flaws was so bad, it made me question why I was so happy at the beginning of this. What drew me in? What made me want to keep playing? What is in this game that made me so happy? Who am I kidding? I can't stay mad at this game. You know, I have big problems with this game, there's no doubt about that, but I still love a lot of aspects of it. It's nostalgia for any Pokemon fan more than Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl ever was. From the music choices to the Pokemon to the ancestors, it's so beautiful to see. Not to mention, it was still fun early in the game catching so many Pokemon. There were so many little moments like creating the Council of Eevees right here. And at the very least, while the battle system was still a little wonky in aspects, I commend Game Freak for doing something different and innovative. Not to mention, it felt good to finally get some shinies in this game. I finally feel the adulation of getting the shinies. Not to mention, all the characters are great. Again, with the exception of the male Karen. I guess my ultimate stance is that this is a cracked diamond of a game. Yeah, it's got a lot of flaws, but it's got a lot of perks too. It's very good, hell in some ways a great game. And if nothing else, it has good building blocks for what future Pokemon games could be. And because I took so long to make this video, Gen 9 has been announced. And not only has Game Freak confirmed that Arceus is meant to be new building blocks for future Pokemon games, but with the addition of Hisuian variants being in the new game, as well as it being much more open world and adventurous, I can safely say Game Freak did the right thing making Arceus. They have the building blocks for a much better system, and I look forward to what Game Freak has in store for that game. If nothing else, Legends Arceus made me more excited for Pokemon than I've been in years. It rekindled my love of Pokemon, and I'm looking forward to Gen 9 more than any other Pokemon game. And you bet your ass I'm going to be playing it the second it comes out. So overall, I'm still glad I played Arceus, and I look forward to the future of Pokemon, whatever it may hold. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video, and before you go, I have a few things I want to mention. First of all, if you love this amazing thumbnail art print, I have good news for you, it's actually for sale. It was done by the amazing Sleepy Charm. Go check her Twitter out down below, she does great work. And if you want a little piece of it and want to support both me and her, then there'll be a Redbubble down below where you can buy it in all kinds of different things. Go check them out, as well as the links to all my other stuff like my Twitch channel where I'm probably going to be playing the post game on Arceus. Not to mention, I'm definitely going to be playing the Kirby game when it comes out, as well as my Twitter where I post random updates and other fun stuff. And if you really like my content and want to support it monetarily, then I also have a Patreon, where you can get perks like requesting something directly, or even if we have enough Patreoners, I'll be doing a D&D Patreon stream. And of course all the usual stuff like the video so it pushes it through the algorithm, subscribe if this is your first time seeing my content, and of course, open up a discussion down below, tell me what you thought of the game. But that's all I got for you now, I'm the Watchful One saying keep on watching, and I'll see you guys next time.